All right, David Grusch. He was talking again. And this time he's talking to an unlikely person, Dr. Phil. I don't even know how unlikely it is because Dr. Phil's been pretty loud lately about the UAP topic. But it's interesting because at one point, as our buddy Pavel was pointing out, Jake Tapper had a whole interview that was supposed to happen with, or even I guess he shot with Grusch that he never aired. But instead of airing this with an outlet like MSNBC or whatever it was, they aired it with Dr. Phil. Now, it's not shitting on Dr. Phil. I'm just saying it's interesting that that's where they're going, and he's getting this kind of coverage and access. So I'm going to play some of the stuff that Grusch told him because it was pretty extraordinary, the things that he said. Grusch has been a lot more forthcoming with the information he's been giving lately on any interview he does. So check this interview out, or this clip, this particular clip, and what Grusch tells Dr. Phil.
So in terms of what my exposure was, I had folks from the retrieval program, I'll call it exfiltrate audiovisual evidence for me to see both video and photos. And that was, audiovisual evidence of the retrieved craft, some of the dead cadavers that were recovered, call it the pilots, as I said in my interview with Nancy Mace. It's very hard to deduce origin because it's not like we know exactly what point in space or time these things came from, but different types of pilots, if you will, different types of crafts. So in terms of what my exposure was, I had folks from the retrieval program, I'll call it exfiltrate.
Cravings is not just about the nicotine. It's really about the habit in general. It's the hand to mouth motion. It's the oral fixation of it. It's the momentary pause. When that loop is broken, the cravings, they spike. So Fume, which I've talked to you guys about before in the past, that replaces your habit with a flavored fidget device that gives your hand and mouth something to do. And it's distracting cravings without nicotine, vapor, or batteries. So my buddy Ming, if you watch my other channel, he is a big smoker. And I said, dude, you gotta try this. You gotta check it out. And you gotta try Fume. And it's not just about trying to quit. It's upgrading that habit loop. So you got to reach for Fume instead of doing the normal habit. So new habits can feel pretty easy on day one. The cravings hit on like day 5 is the thing. So Fume, when I was talking to Ming, he was like, that helped. It kind of interrupted his old pattern of doing things. So there's favorite flavors. I asked Ming, I was like, what is it? He said to him it was the raspberry one. He said it was kind of tangy and it was more on the sweeter end of things. And there's a good offer that's going on with Fume right now. And when you grab a journey pack, you get a free gift, and you just got to use my code DTE. It's a pretty good deal. Fume has already helped over 700,000 people take steps towards better habits, and now it's going to be your turn. You got to use our code DTE, get a free gift when you do it with your journey pack. Head on over to tryfume.com, TRYFUM.com. Use that code DTE to claim your free gift today. I have had Fume as a sponsor before. They have helped out various friends. That's why I usually always say I love working with them, because every single time, whether it was Mark Riley, who you guys know, my friend Ming, Fume has been helping tremendously and will help you. So go and check it out. Use that code, and I think it'll help you. So that's pretty big all in itself, right? It's a little bit more of a detail to what he said in 2023 when asked about, he said non-human, and that he had known. This is more so like, well, they showed me this craft, they showed me these bodies, and he said that he has seen these things. And again, this is someone who worked higher up enough, and I still go back to what I think it was Chris Cuomo who said when Grusch came out and had that press conference, Capitol Hill, no one has disputed anything that he said. Still, there's no government officials that have said what he said is just not true. None of that is factual. They haven't commented on it. I don't know if anyone's asked him about it, but they haven't commented about it. And this is another thing that you would have to assume that they should have to comment on, or would be asked to comment on, is that here's this guy again who had high-level clearance, has testified, is taken very seriously, And now here he is talking to Dr. Phil saying, I've seen the craft, seen the bodies. I've seen them. I've seen them through these pictures that they showed me. They didn't stop with that. Talked about a little bit more further detail with some of the non-human bodies and what they did.
Have any of these pilots or occupants of these craft, to your knowledge, been taken alive?
Yes. And I know people who have had direct interactions in a detainment situation.
Were they able to communicate?
Yes. Yes. And it is true that some sort of consciousness communication, of course, people call it telepathy. I cannot begin to tell you how it works, but there is some sort of communication like that. And even friends of mine that were on retrievals felt that kind of communication as they approached the vehicle when they were doing cordoning it off, waiting for transport.
I mean, this is stuff that we've heard if you're following the topic. Again, that when these things have communicated, when you look at the, I think it was the Zimbabwe case, where the kids said that that's how these things communicated. Now other people said these things they kind of communicate, whether it's telepathically, whatever it might be. And I like how Grusch says, I don't know how it necessarily works. I'm telling you in the way that the people that I've spoken to in the communication in the way that they had, and he mentions consciousness and other things about, he's just so less reserved about what he's saying now. Now it's like, F it. I'm just talking about what I can say. Maybe he just had more clearance now from what he's allowed to say, more approval from what he's allowed to say, because he's out there talking to people. And because there are certain things that, well, he used to do, I can't really go into that. I can't really go into that. He's answering everything. Where Dr. Phil says to him, have these things captured alive? Yes. Have they been able to communicate? Yes. Just straight up. He talked about some of the people that he interviewed and talked about, and check this out.
And of course, I interviewed a ton of subjects all the way up to the cabinet, White House level that had close personal participation in this subject. And of course, because I wasn't hands-on, so to speak, and saw this in person, I brought a lot of those people to the Intelligence Community Inspector General under the Biden administration, so they can hear it from the horse's mouth. They can get information on the locations of where this is being held, where the archives facilities are, where they hold all the program records, etc. And of course, this complaint was, considered credible and urgent. Admiral Haynes was forced to send it to the Senate and House Intelligence Committees in summer 2022. And then I subsequently provided 11 and a half hours of classified testimony to the Senate and House Intelligence Committees. Unfortunately, from what I understand, there was a little bit of fear in those committees, especially in the Senate, and they didn't open up some full-field investigation. I think Mark Werner and Marco Rubio were a little nervous to really up the ante with the deep state that they were tackling. That's probably a longer discussion. And then, of course, the ICIG investigated it. And from what I understand, back channeled to me unofficially is Jake Sullivan in White House General Counsel Office basically told Tom Monheim, who was the Inspector General for the intelligence community under Biden.
Again, very interesting. Told him to stop. People got scared. People got nervous. You keep hearing about that. It's because people know what it is. And there's a limit of where you can go until they go, no, you can't do that anymore. This is who really runs things, and they don't want you talking about it. And if you do, shit's going to go down. And we're not giving you any more access. We don't want to get in trouble. We like the other stuff that we do here. And as important as this might be overall, we're not going to be able to help you because we like the power seat that we're in, and we don't want to risk that. So we're not going to help you. Marco Rubio, before he was in the bigger power seat, he was talking about everything. Now he won't even open his mouth about anything now. He doesn't talk about it at all. He even kind of backtracked his whole, when I shot the age of disclosure thing, he's full of it. He doesn't anymore want to talk about it anymore because it could disrupt his power seat. These politicians don't fool anybody, and now they do it. So here he is giving 13 hours of, David Grusch giving 13 hours of testimony of everything, giving you everything that you can. This is the one guy that could lead you, and there's more than one, but this is the one guy we know that could lead you to the people who could get you the answers that you need to know. And you can, here are the people who told me about the stuff. Here are the people who did this. Here are the people who did that. Here you go. What do you say? We're good. Oh, okay. But then as the future went on, more and more people are trying to help and get that exposed. There's just too much red tape. There's just so much. When you hear this, it's like the idea is that you think, oh, all right, here's somebody who's got some proof. Let's find the proof. It doesn't work like that at all. And it's clear as day. So it continued on, and it was a really kind of fascinating interview. So check out this next portion here.
I'm wondering, as I see these 5 tranches of release and I see these grainy videos, I've seen gun camera video. It is crystal clear if you want it to be crystal clear. And radar tracks and infrared. We're getting very degraded versions of what is available. So I'm concerned about the intention. I don't think it's coming from President Trump. I think he intends for there to be transparency here, but I think when it gets into the bureaucratic apparatus, it's getting garbled.
All right, that was a very good point, because we've been talking about that, right? Anytime they have one of these tranches that come out, and it's like, here we go, same thing, footage, grainy footage. What's that? Oh, a thing that moves left and right. McWest, balloon, see? And you can't combat them because just grainy footage, back and forth, zipping back and forth, and what is it? And Dr. Phil says, if they wanted to show you clear footage, they would. But it also shows, as he says, I don't think it's President Trump. I think that he really wants to get the disclosure. Well, then that would prove, if that is the case, that would prove that for as long as people have been saying, and I think it was Marco Rubio had said at one point, Stephen Greer said it at one point, the president isn't in control of this topic at all, no matter what president it is, because they're not looked upon as the people who are really running this. So they're hired guns that are going to be there either 4 or 8 years, and then that's it. On to the next one to hide the secrets from. So go ahead and try for as long as you want during your term, but you'll be out, and then someone else will be in, and they won't care as much, or they won't try it. And even if they do, it's only another 4 or 8 years. We maneuver until the next person comes in, and we maneuver around them. So we're going to keep showing you this. Sure, you want to release footage? Here you go. Take this. This is what we have. You don't really care about it much. When you're asked about it, he usually says, well, I don't know. A lot of people believe in this thing, but I don't really believe it. I don't know. That alone is not going to get you, it's good that you're trying, but you've got to have somebody in the way that Burleson or, again, Garcia or any of these people on both sides on the aisle, but they are particularly passionate, at least right now, about this topic. If any president presented themselves the way that Burchett or anybody else did when it comes to this particular topic, that would get the people more locked in to what you're talking about, because it seems like a passionate thing that you actually want. It's not, the other thing I told you that always bothered me was, we released these things. I couldn't believe how many people. It was the most clicked upon thing that we had. People really want to see this thing. It's amazing. It's like ratings and clicks. It's like that's why you're doing it. You got to be passionate about it. You got to believe in it. That's why people believe Burleson. Burleson actually seems like he's passionate about this thing. But as far as what Dr. Phil's saying here, he makes good points. It's like if they have the footage, this is what they're releasing to say, like, yeah, there's something. There's something. You figure out what it is. We're not telling you anything. Do we know? I don't know. And that's what they're doing. It continues on. Check it.
To be clear, you're saying that you have seen undisputable evidence that there are craft on this planet that are not from this planet, correct?
Correct.
You say you have seen and have evidence that there are craft that didn't originate on this planet. Are we talking multiple craft?
Yeah.
Are we talking 5, 6, 25, 50? What are we talking about?
Under 100, but more than 25.
Again, a lot of information coming out here from Grusch that we had not heard before. Under 100, but more than 25 in the history of it, which again lines up to the things that we've heard reported on and all those things. But here's somebody who's not saying, well, it could be anywhere. No, more than 25. And it is now what he is saying more so than he did before. He said, not of this world. Now, he had always kind of alluded to, and then Luna always said it was more interdimensional stuff, but that could be one and the same. But he kind of definitively said not of this earth in this one, right? So that was interesting. But again, to me, what's fascinating here is just the pure confidence of the answers that Grusch is giving in this particular interview. This is an F it, I don't care anymore. I'm just going balls to the wall here. This is what I read from this. So let's keep going.
Starting in the early 2000s, when a lot of money was siphoned for the global war on terror, the big defense contractors started doing their own retrievals, sort of off books, under the cognizance of certain government agencies. So there's a lot in, I'll call it, private possession in defense contractor space that I think the government doesn't have a full accounting on. So it's really hard to get exact numbers. But certainly we've recovered several dozen vehicles over the last, 8-9 decades or so.
Confirming stuff that people have talked about, speculated about, private sectors that have this stuff, he didn't say Lockheed Martin, but the Lockheed Martins, those type of people that have these things, and definitively saying that there are retrieval things that are happening outside of the government's knowledge, and we have it, and this is what we do have. This is the information that we do have. And again, just diving deep into it. And this is the kind of stuff that I wish he could say this under oath too, but I wish it wasn't just him. I'm glad it's him. I'm glad that he is doing what he's doing. And I'm glad that he's being so forthcoming about it. But I just wish that there were other people that were able to do the same. Now, again, I don't know if he's getting protection, because you look at, like we talked about the other day, Matt Brown and those people, they're not. They're getting fired from their jobs. They're losing their pensions. They're losing these things. He doesn't seem like he is. He seems like he's protected. I don't know the answer to that. I'm just telling you what it seems like. He's also collaborating with Hollywood projects. That becomes more interesting to me. David Grusch's information and knowledge working with Joseph Kosinski on this movie coming out, which is, again, if it is still coming out, from what they say, it's more about a whistleblower type story than what Disclosure Day did. I liked Disclosure Day. Not a lot of people, maybe in this space, did, but I liked it. I don't think it necessarily helped anything inside the UAP topic that made people look at it outside of the community that would see it and go, oh, wait, there is stuff happening. It still seemed a little more fantastical to people that they were, but if it's more of a time, there's a movie that Spielberg did called The Post that I brought up. That's what Kaczynski's movie might be like with Grusch behind it. So maybe that's part of the reason why he's a little bit more comfortable now. He's got a little bit more money. He's able to talk a little bit more freely. He doesn't have as much of a handcuff. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. But he's out talking. And here's some more stuff here.
You've seen the cadavers.
Yeah. Some of the craft we've assessed that are likely drones, and some of the craft that we've recovered, it is true in some of the lore in the public space, we've recovered vehicles that were empty and the pilots were not there. That actually is a true historical statement. But yes, some of it was piloted, and I always find, even though it is my reality, I always feel uncomfortable talking about that because it is such a ontologically shocking thing to talk about the pilots. But what do you know? They look just like what, people have reported seeing, like credible witnesses. You look at the Ariel School event in 1994, where 80 school children in Zimbabwe saw what we would call in pop culture speak small gray aliens, exactly the way you think. And what do you know? Some of them look exactly as reported by credible observers that have nothing to gain and everything to lose by discussing their experience. And it even goes back to the work of John Mack at Harvard, who was a trained psychiatrist looking at people that have had these experiences with the phenomenon, and he deduced something is going on. This is not some psychosomatic thing or some mental health condition. And people over the eons have had these personal experiences with these things.
Wow, the stuff that he's saying, right? And I'm going through this interview with you because I've seen some of the clips, but now I'm going through the entire thing. And props to Skywatch Signal for posting the whole thing. But as I'm going through this, he mentioned Zimbabwe, right? I didn't realize that he did, but he mentioned Zimbabwe. He mentions that's what they said that they saw, and then that's been kind of reported of what these things have looked like. And I think that sometimes because it's been so pop culturized, and maybe that was part of the plan of the deep state stuff. I don't know, but you get so pop culturized, like, oh, sure, it just happens to look like what we, envision them to look like, or it was no, maybe they were seen first, and it just kind of got itself into the loop there, and then someone goes, oh, maybe someone made that up, and it's like, no, maybe someone saw it. But the details that Grusch are given here, and again, not even just saying vaguely as he did beforehand with a couple bodies here, a couple bodies there. We did see some stuff like this is what they look like, and it's hard for me to say this because of the shock of what you thought it was is what it is. And he's being just upfront about this stuff. All right, you're moving on here.
You know where some of these craft, if we have more than 25 and less than 100, do you know where some of these are being stored and or researched as we sit here today?
Yeah, the problem with that is I knew where they were historically up until the date and time that my source at that facility worked at it. And this is something I told an element of Mr. Miller's task force recently is they're going to have to get eyes on to those facilities. There is a program protection strategy, unfortunately, to move movable archives and materials if they feel like the location has been burned or exposed. That's exactly what some of these CIA programs did during the Church Pike era. So that's not a kind of a conspiracy theory. So up until a couple years ago, I was aware of U.S. government facilities and contractor facilities that both had the documentation and the material holdings and the cadavers, mind you.
So, that's one that someone go, well, isn't that convenient? He used to know but doesn't know anymore, huh? You can see someone saying that. I'm not going to say that because I'm going to say that makes sense to me. If enough people are out there talking about it, it's like, hey, it's like people know where this thing is. We got to move it. If it's movable, and he said that, we got to move it. And that's why a lot of the time we've said that before. It's like, oh, the information's there. It's like, oh, okay, we got to get the information. We got to do this, and then we can get warrants. They're going to be gone by the time you get there. They're going to be gone. And that's what he's saying. And that makes sense to me. It's like, okay, we know where this is. We know where this is. We know where this is. Okay, great. Are you going to go get it? Well, no, we used to know where it was. But because you guys didn't act on it in time, they caught wind of it, and now they're gone. That makes a lot of sense to me. So, but it doesn't mean that there aren't people who do know where it is and do know where these things are now. But it also is one of those things, as I hear this stuff, that all this that's being said, it takes me back to that interview that Vice President Vance just gave with Rogan recently, and it drives me crazy. When he's like, well, if this information was out there, it would have been leaked. What the fuck is this? What's this? What he's been doing the last, 3-4 years. It is being leaked. That drove me crazy. It's the first thing I would have said. Surprised Rogan didn't say it. Crazy. But anyway, let's get to the next one.
David knows where these things are and gave me the clearance to accompany you there. You have the ability to take me to where we could see a craft and a cadaver somewhere, somehow. You believe you could?
Oh yeah, we could take a little field trip out west, we'll say. Yeah, and we could certainly go to those facilities. So.
And you believe there would still be something at one of these places that we would be able to actually see, knock on, something three-dimensional that's there.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes certain things are hard to move, when they're particular size, it's a little bit laborious to move. So I think there's some locations that likely are untouched, because I'll be very vague on that.
That was the first time in that whole interview, at least that I heard, that he said, I have to be vague on that. Everything else, he's just saying everything about. But it goes back to maybe the Ross Coulthart one that he talked about, the big, huge football field size one that, I mean, that's not going to be easy to move. These other things aren't going to be easy to move, that there probably are ones that he knows about that aren't easy to move. And he did say in that previous clip that if they're accessible enough and movable enough, then they could probably move them. But other ones, they ain't moving. So I thought this interview was fascinating. I thought this was one of the more fascinating interviews that we've gotten in a while. And it, once again, drives me crazy that, and I can't remember if this was recently, I don't remember what video it was. We were talking about the tranches, whatever, too. And one of you guys wrote in the comment section, and nobody covered it really on the major news networks. They wrote, it was on the internet news, but nobody really covered it. People are just like, the first batch is like, there's nothing in there, same old stuff. No one really covered it. Nobody talked about it. And nobody talked about Grusch's press conference on Capitol Hill that day. And the fact that this isn't going to be covered is, again, it's smash your head into the table type stuff. It's annoying. But nonetheless, here we are. Fascinating stuff here by David Grusch. I wonder what you guys think. What was the most fascinating stuff that you heard, if anything? Put your thoughts in there. Please let me know. Make sure you click like, comment, subscribe. I'll be back here tomorrow. And that's it. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll see you on the flip side.